What are once popular hobbies that are slowly dying? Rock hounding was immensely popular back in the 1950s and 1960s. Personally, I think it's a fascinating and fulfilling hobby, but when I go to a meeting at a rock and gem club, I'm usually the youngest one in the room by several decades. Don't see anyone playing marbles anymore. I had an awesome collection in school. Letter writing seems to be more popular than I thought. My son and I write letters to each other every so often. We see each other quite a bit, but he says getting a letter is like Christmas on off days. He's enamored with it. The excitement of getting something in the mail specifically for him that means something, and isn't just some scholastic monthly review. Letter writing is a lost art, but is such an underappreciated form of communication. To me, it's the next best thing to being in person. The writer took the time to put pieces of themselves in writing. They make good keepsakes as well. Backyard astronomy. There's less and less places where the sky is not polluted with artificial light. You can still see the moon and brightest planets with your telescope, but not galaxies, star clusters and nebulae. Building miniature models of ships inside bottles. Paintball has been dying a slow death since 2006. Sad, really. I think roller skating made a bit of a comeback in the late 90s early 2000s. Then mostly died out. Might be seeing a slight resurgence now too. Racquetball used to be that every moderately sized or larger gym had at least one or racquetball courts. Now they are almost all gone. Pickleball is the future, the geriatric, laughably immobile future. I would say any kind of collecting of physical objects. People just have less space in general and are moving more, so it's too impractical. Stained glass. I learned how to make it from my old man, and my junior high art class teacher also taught it. Very few artisans are still around. Scrapbooking. Yeah, I'm watching the arts and crafts stores around me completely uninstalling their racks for specialty paper. Now the only thing they have is mega packs of repeating colors/images. To boot, all the inclusions like paper craft/die cut things, washi tape, scissors, stickers, etc. have gotten so expensive I would rather go buy $5 bags at Value Village to get an assortment of things versus buying anything new. I really miss yard sales for the same reasons. So what I've gotten from this comment section is one person states a hobby, followed by 5 comments stating it's either having a resurgence or is still a thing. Then the same hobby is repeated several more times with less responses saying the same thing. Good to know. Train spotting. Back in the day one could meet up with a group of spotters and go for a bash and end up visiting the other end of the country before coming home in time for tea. Hell, the amount of times I used to sneak out of school and go for a bash to Holyhead because some Monster 37 was out, or an O'Heat Duff, or when I was staying over at a friend's house in Greater Manchester and was actually on the overpass sleeper train to Inverness. They were honestly happy days. We made friends for life. Even though I was the youngest in my group by a good 4 to 5 years, the lads always looked out for me and made sure I didn't get into bother, and in return I used to be able to get some sympathy from a guard and not get us all chucked off when we didn't have a valid peace ticket. Those days are gone for many reasons. Technology and computer games and the like are one thing, but I also think a huge part of it is down to the decimation of the railway through privatization. Everything is a diesel or electric unit now. There are no big noisy diesels or roaring electric locomotives. Who honestly wants to go bashing Pinolinas and Voyagers? Not me. I'd rather die. Fortunately we have heritage railways where we can relive some of our youth. Even get to be that train driver that we always wanted to be. That's me now. I can't do it for a living, but I sure can be a thrash merchant of a weekend. There are youngsters getting involved, both on the platform and spotting units and the odd freight engine, as that's almost all there is left on the main line now, but they are also getting involved in preservation, so we can teach the youngsters how to fix and drive the big beasts when their times comes. Building electronic stuff. The parts are so much smaller now, and some need programming. It's very different, and I understand why it's less popular, but there's been sort of a resurgence of people using electronics to control things due to the Maker movement, Arduinos, and Raspberry Pi computers. So, people don't make their own televisions anymore, but they do make robots, custom 3D printers, and other gadgets. Coin collecting. If you're a teen, please go to a coin show. You'll probably walk out with a bunch of free stuff from seniors extremely excited to see the hobby being passed down to the next generation. There are often kids areas with activities, free resources, etc. Stop by the pan show if you're ever near Pittsburgh, PA. As a teen, I got a sweet AU red brown 1905 Indian head sent at the kids auction with pan dollars that you get for showing up, bringing a friend, or wearing the t-shirt. Bowling. The bowling alley used to be the hub of family entertainment. One could almost consider it the town square. There were bowling leagues throughout the week for all sorts of age demographics. Friday night bowling for teens, and families would spend all day there on weekends. You would meet your friends there, eat and drink, and have talks and gatherings. I feel like the bowling alley has died out. Be nice to have something like that for the family again. This might be a bit controversial, but since I do this, I'll mention it, because that's how I feel. Playing drums. Real drums. MIDI is making us obsolete. Don't get me wrong. There are still applications for live drums, especially if you want the groove or feel of a live drummer, but bedroom music production has just skyrocketed even more due to the pandemic, and not everyone has enough space for a full acoustic kit. Ham radio. I remember as a kid listening to my dad's radio and him always having a good time and genuinely enjoying a good rag chew. I got my license and tuned into some of the local repeaters. Found some nets with the most depressing things I've ever heard. People talking about their terminal illnesses or how prescription costs are killing them. In the UK it is 100% croquet. I know what a cliche. When I was younger everyone had a croquet set, and it was a great way to enjoy time with friends on a summer day in the garden, whereas now I don't know anyone that still owns one. Maybe a strange one, but this question got me thinking. Geocaching, which is weird because I still do it sometimes while biking around, but caching apps rarely alert me of any finders in the apps now. I put $20 in what used to be a super popular cache that people would visit daily like 15 years ago. I later turned about 6 months later, and the same items including the $20 were in there. Historical reenacting. Folks no longer want to play dress up in itchy wool and educate folks on whatever period was their jam. Its heyday was late 90s, when you could find a group that did just about any period you could imagine. General aviation or being a private pilot. A series of lawsuits against plane manufacturers combined with insane certification requirements for airplanes and parts have made it so that buying new planes or replacement parts is ludicrously expensive for pretty much anyone earning less than $500,000 per year. Old used aircraft from the heyday of the 60s 80s had been filling the void to an extent over the years, but they are starting to get really worn out, and people feel less and less comfortable flying them as time goes on. And unfortunately there's just no replacements as they age out. As an example, a brand new Cessna 172 in 1969 cost $12,500, about $90,000 in today's money. Today, a 2021 model would cost around $400,000. Sewing. It's not being passed down to the younger generations. Most they learn in school is how to patch a hole. I'm lucky that my grandma taught me how to, and I can make all the quilts I want. I'm the only teenager in the fabric store cheesing out over cute patterns and asking for stretchy nylon thread. My mom wants me to teach my sisters so it doesn't die out. Working on cars. I think that one is going to keep fading too. With EVs, sure there are still parts of the car that can be worked on, but the power plant won't be part of it, nor will the giant battery array. So unless you want to just replace shocks, brakes, interior trim or do some body work, what's left that's still made of metal? It's a shrinking endeavor for sure.